This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map Sick City in the north as the red Traveler 59. This is BikeRushOwnz. And in the south as the orange Steel Talons. This is Drive. Drive versus BikeRushOwnz. Just a single game. I have so many tournament series still to get to, and yet here I am casting a single game purely because I don't have the time to cast and edit long tournament series at this point because, you know, I want to do like semifinals and finals at least, and it just turns into a lot of games and a lot of time editing, so I'm doing some quick one-offs while I don't have time. And wow, those buzzers actually cleared all of the riflemen. I thought the riflemen had the numbers to overwhelm the buzzers, but the answer was no. Both of the cashback rewards claimed there by Drive, and it looks like BikeRush is going to be getting his own Tiberium spikes as well as Drive. So this is release 15, by the way. I did want to say that at the beginning. It's not 16, but BikeRushOwnz claiming 3 Tib spikes, getting a kill on a couple of rifleman squads. A lovely start to the beginning of the game for BikeRushOwnz. Also going to be getting a full scout off of Drive's base, which is not particularly revealing, but of course that's something you want to confirm if you're BikeRushOwnz, just to make sure nothing too crazy is headed your way. So yes, I do have very many tournament series still to get to, but I wanted to make a couple of one-off videos and not spend a whole bunch of time casting and editing and not actually be able to release anything. Drive headed straight for that blue Tiberium, as is BikeRush. For these two guys playing Steel Talons and Traveler 59, you wouldn't know it based on how mirrored this matchup is at this point. Drive making a scout through BikeRush's base with his Pitbull, and hey, he is confirming the exact same thing that BikeRush was confirming earlier. Nothing too crazy, nothing too weird is going on. I guess technically those buzzers taking some hits against those heavy harvesters, but it would take a buzzer a very long time to ever chew through the armor on a heavy harvester. I guess technically they do like a little teeny tiny bit of damage, but not enough for anyone to be worried about. Is Drive gonna steal Tiberium? I don't know what his plan was there, but his plan may have been to try and steal Tiberium from BikeRushOwnz, and then he just sent it over to his own natural expansion for one reason or another. A couple of pits and some riflemen going to be engaging against these seeker tanks, letting the building take the majority of the damage there from those seekers, and then coming back in with the pits is a great move by Drive. Engineer gets sniped, so nicely done there by BikeRushOwnz. That might actually have been the second engineer that Drive produced to try and take over that spot, which would be a great catch for BikeRushOwnz in terms of just evening up the units lost tab between the two players, because obviously that last engagement was a bit of a win for Drive, not so much for BikeRush. 3 pit bulls, somewhat unopposed. 1 seeker tank going to be the response from BikeRush. And more seeker tanks most likely on the way, as he's going to be able to push away BikeRush from that natural expansion. 4 harvesters up and running for Drive, as he is undoubtedly teching up towards Tier 2. Maybe some aircraft, maybe straight into Tier 3. Seeker tank on the left side goes down. 2 additional seeker tanks, 3 additional seeker tanks, and some descents here for the defense. No fast legs just yet. Both players, they've got their natural base eco up and rolling. And, oh yeah, that's right, we're watching Steel Talons, which means Titans, Wolverines going to be on the field relatively soon. And, of course, the Titans already stomping their way across the map. But we've just been watching those pitbulls so much that actually 2 pitbulls on the left side getting caught. A third one managing to escape, albeit barely, with that lightning spike being called in. And BikeRushOwnz actually looking to cut off this attack path on the left side. So he's kind of going to be denying Drive from his own blue Tiberium. But of course, as Drive expands north, a path to this blue Tiberium actually makes a lot of sense as well. But I do like that from BikeRush, trying to cut off one attack path and also the access to the blue Tiberium, making Drive's life that much more difficult. predicting the double Orca, or perhaps a little bit of a scout, as it is 7 or 8 Orcas out on the field, and the first plasma missile battery has already gone down for BikeRushOwnz. Wolverines, they've got that AP ammo upgrade. This is a good amount of Titans. Let's see how BikeRush manages to hold this off. It is going to be a stasis chamber and a double portal in the back, as he is going to not have a lot of seeker tanks left in just a moment. There's the phase to lock down, or to protect rather, 2 of the harvesters. 2 other harvesters go down as 1 Orca gets eliminated, and this tripod may be the next target for those Orcas to try and even up the armor fight on the ground. Wolverines in good enough numbers to clean up, with the help of that rifleman squad, all of the descents, and it's going to be a body blocking SimCity kind of a move to keep these seeker tanks alive versus these Titans. More descents and a storm column coming in for BikeRushOwnz, and that is going to signal the end of this attack. And a mastermind, a prodigy rather, with the area mind control on that Wolverine, going to be sending it into battle against its friends. And nope, the Titan does not get chased down. All of the 5 remaining Titans do manage to escape for drive. It was definitely hoping that that attack would do a bit more damage, but his Orcas are refueled and ready to go, heading back out for another pass. The phase field should not be ready to go just yet, but 2 plasma missile batteries and a storm column are going to be a tough nut to crack for these 7 Orcas. And I think a Harvester just teleported to the front lines once again, as 2 Orcas go down. A heavy cost for drive to pay for just sniping that 1 Harvester, considering that this is the more important field. But BikeRush is cycling out his Harvesters from his main base to his natural expansion. Utilizing that teleport ability is definitely a nice touch, as we see the signal transmitter going down in the north. BikeRushOwnz is up to that tier 4/tier 5 area for Scrin. Does he actually have a gravity stabilizer? No, so no packs, no planetary assault carriers just yet coming out from BikeRushOwnz. A couple of seeker tanks given to the dogs as they get absolutely destroyed there. And BikeRushOwnz still holding these 3 Tiberium spikes. Drive has been unable to claim that, and there's the wormhole going down as the tech center gets bought and sold off. Unfortunately for Drive, not quite being able to protect himself from every single angle from BikeRushOwnz. And wow, that combat engineer shooting those grenadiers and taking them down. BikeRushOwnz going to be defending with his 1-clicks as a tripod from the north makes its way to the south. Mammoth tanks, Titans, and some infantry all getting in on the action from the side of Drive. Harvesters going down, and the front line is largely undefended. It's going to be up to the cultists to try and hold the line, as is where are the hammerheads and where is the anti-infantry, as they're going to need to get to the front line to deal with the cultists. Pulling back from the front line, the cultists are looking to make a second run of it just as the slow field elapses there, and the rest of the army comes up to the front. A couple of shock troopers going to be absorbing damage, and another prodigy steps on out and immediately gets destroyed. The tripod goes down. The hammerhead's finally showing up, but there's too much anti-air as BikeRushOwnz is faltering, but trying to pull out what defense he can. Descents ganging up on these Titans 1 by 1. Do they have the numbers with the tripods and the cultists trying to reinforce? One more Wolverine goes down, and a second gets eliminated by Drive as he's forced to murder his own forces. The cultists turning them against their brethren. Triple portal on the front line is the only defense that BikeRush needs, as his anti-air wipes out more hammerheads, more Orcas, lambs to the slaughter, just raining down fire upon the battlefield, and the army is dissipating slowly but surely, surrounded by Scrin forces. Drive has fallen into a trap, and there is no escape. BikeRushOwnz's drone platform remaining on the ground, barely surviving, and this army is just almost dead, but it's not quite gone, as a reinforcing rifleman squad gets slaughtered and the Wolverine is forced to run for its life. Drive being pushed back, BikeRushOwnz starting to steal some of that Tiberium from Drive from right under his nose. BikeRush's front line has been devastated. His eco is in shambles, and he has no way to quickly harvest that Tiberium. But the army of Drive, so many losses, so many anti-air defenses, claiming their value and getting just absolutely massive damage done. That engineer, I don't think, is going to be able to help kill off that harvester. There was an engineer heading over to the left side of the map. Finally, these hammerheads finding a place where they have a little bit of ability to do some damage. Not a lot, mind you, with just that AP ammo, but this harvester might be far enough away from the anti-air defenses that it might barely go down. No, the plasma missile batteries are too good with that shard launcher upgrade, just absolutely shredding everything in the sky. Titans being rebuilt, couple of rocket squads, couple of rifleman squads as well. Going to be engaging a cultist inside of that structure. BikeRushOwnz rebuilding 2 refineries on the front line. That's enough to get his eco back up and running. Start producing another army to match that of Drive. More rifleman squads on the front line, undoubtedly to try and deal with the cultist numbers. And if he could clean up those anti-air defenses and then just keep the cultist numbers manageable, then he would actually be in a pretty good situation. It might be better to swing around to the south side, but he's going to be going for the power plants, which is also a viable strategy. Let's see if he's able to work this out, but cutting off the eco, killing off the harvesters would be nice. Plasma missile batteries also in the south, which means the aircraft, any remaining aircraft, have to come from the north. Bro, man, right on the front line, the buzzer squad's going down. The descents get cleaned up by the rifleman squads, and the Titans trying to stand strong with their railguns against the tripods, chasing away that tripod as they gun it down. But is this going to just be a repeat of last time? A surround and destroy. The eco may not be able to support that kind of a strategy from BikeRush a second time. His infantry forces getting slaughtered. Drive looking to do infrastructure damage, but it's not enough. As once again he washes upon the rock and has a couple of pit bulls way up here in the north. I guess cleaning up a gunwalker and keeping the Storm Riders from getting too high of numbers. At some point, the Tib Spike did get captured by Drive. He did reclaim that property of his own. But both players pretty out of cash. BikeRushOwnz has a huge amount of Tiberium, but just not a lot of harvesters on the front line to harvest it. Although he's sending in 2 more, so he's going to be fine in terms of those numbers. 4, maybe 5 harvesters there with those 2 refineries will take care of that Tiberium field real quick. And the name of the game for this match has been Defender's Advantage. BikeRushOwnz has almost never had the superior army in any way, but through pure chaos and just survivability, he has been able to hold off Drive's superior army. Some of that is the cultists, but it's also just BikeRush's overwhelmed, swarming style of just producing a ton of stuff and surrounding you with it, dropping anti-air defenses right on top of the hammerheads and getting a kill before the plasma missile battery can go down, and getting a second kill as Drive carelessly flies his hammerheads back into range, thinking that that plasma missile battery would have been dealt with, but it barely wasn't. Dropping those buzzer hives right in the middle of the rocket squads, right in the middle of the infantry, going to try and clean them up as a Storm Rider comes through for a pass, but it gets eliminated. Gunwalkers and Descents being annihilated by the superior forces of Steel Talons, but is it going to be enough with the base defenses of BikeRush? See, that's the strength of his style. He doesn't even need the cultists. He does this kind of pull you apart thing, and again, his army is not better at almost every stage. Drive's army is better, but BikeRush is trying to pull off this same trick for the 3rd time in a row. Pull him this way, then that way, dropping buzzer hives and whatever else he can along the way, but it may be too much. This may be the one time that Drive can do it. We'll have to see. There's still strength left in BikeRush as he's producing from the Warp Sphere, and most likely another base defense. It's Wolverines and Rocket Squads versus Gunwalkers, and it's just barely not enough as the Wolverines get split up, and even a photon cannon going to be showing up here to do a little bit of anti-tank damage and chase away Drive's forces. Drive, without the economy to really support getting more Titans, I think is why he went with mostly Wolverines in that last pass. Maybe a couple of extra Titans would have made a difference. It's hard to say. But, of course, BikeRushOwnz once again going just super heavy with the Gunwalkers, heavy with the Descent, and that was most of his defense, trying to pull in Drive's forces up close and personal with those buzzer hives, drop them right in the middle of the rocket squads and the riflemen, and get just huge value of swarms of buzzers coming out and quickly eliminating all of those infantry forces. This might... Is Drive about to pull Yes, he is garrisoning the heavy harvesters, the only pro move that Steel Talons has. I do feel a little bit bad that this heavy harvester has like a third of a load of Tiberium, and so that's going to be going to waste, and Drive is not going to be getting the value out of that. Bolstering his defenses with a photon cannon, BikeRushOwnz is looking to make another stand against the now heavy harvester Titan Wolverine-enabled forces of Drive. It's up to the north. Not a lot of infrastructure here, but it gives BikeRush's an army a chance to reposition, and this is more of what Drive wants. He wants a straight-up engagement between the army without all of these tricky base defenses getting in the way and messing things up. Drive starting to push forward. There's a little bit of pressure as he's pushing back the gunwalkers, and once again, BikeRush is going to try and pull off this tactic. He's like a defensive pocket where he tries to draw Drive in and then pick him apart bit by bit. Going for the power plants is a nice move if he can shut down the power. Those photon cannons are useless, forcing the sell-off of a refinery, forcing the sell-off of a buzzer hive as well. But there's an upgraded power plant in the north. Does Drive smell it? He's starting to split up BikeRush's forces. The gunwalkers are completely unsupported by any kind of base defenses, but the harvesters going down as a couple of seeker tanks stepping out onto the front line, and an MRT a little bit into the wrong position as it needs to be in a better defensive position to defend against and to heal up those units. But now that the drone ship is down, the engineer gets eliminated. BikeRushOwnz almost cannot come back from this kind of a position. He just needs to curb the economy of BikeRush, which actually right now is still pretty good, and then deal with the army in a more defensive stance. BikeRushOwnz going to be pushing forward. He's trying for a big last stand, but it's not enough. The descents, the gunwalkers, the seeker tanks all being destroyed, and now the base defenses can be dealt with one by one. They won't be continuing to pop up, and Drive has finally done it. Unless BikeRush has an absolute ace up his sleeve over time, maybe even if this attack doesn't work, which I think it will, but even if this attack doesn't work, Drive should be able to win out in the long game. With no drone ship, BikeRushOwnz has significantly fewer options as Drive rolls forward. Rocket squads, Titans, and an MRT keeping everything alive as gunwalkers and seeker tanks are no match for the power of Steel Talons and the heavy harvester loaded up with infantry. There's the fire sale as BikeRush taps the GG, and Drive is going to take the game. What a back and forth between Drive and BikeRushOwnz. What a sick match to see. Some mind control shenanigans, some great attacks, or some great defenses rather than BikeRushOwnz, but it looked like Drive was starting to learn his lesson. Sectioning off the army, pushing the gunwalkers away, and then dealing with smaller groups of the buildings definitely worked out a lot better than those first two attacks where he tried to plow right into the heart of the infrastructure of BikeRushOwnz and just tear everything apart, because then BikeRushOwnz is dropping barracks behind you, he's dropping buzzer hives behind you in the middle of your army, he's getting a surround by buildings and by cheap defensive units rather than fighting straight up army value to army value. In the end, that unit kill to death ratio favoring Drive, but I bet about halfway through the game it would have been much more even, and maybe even on the side of BikeRushOwnz, even though he was using those cheaper units. That will do it for this game. Pretty even on the economy graph. It really felt like there would have been more disparity between these guys, but I guess that third Tiberium spike and then BikeRush's, I think he was a little bit more consistent with the blue Tiberium, so even in the kind of the later game when he only had one or two harvesters on that natural expansion greenfield, I guess he had enough income from other places to actually keep pace, and in the end come out a slight bit ahead of Drive. But Drive, you know, not giving up, just constantly remacroing up a second army behind the one that's out fighting so that he never was on the back foot totally with the army. And then BikeRush never really got across the map to go and strike a killing blow. But what a great game from these two guys, and that will do it for this match, for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert, signing out.